I I pretty much did everything in my life that I could do up to this, and this was like the last stumbling block, I guess. Everything else wasn't enough, from spirituality to philosophy and all the progress I made. There was still something that wasn't going away. So I'm pretty new to transition. I just started voice classes and laser hair removal towards the end of the summer. I am not out at work. I'm not out to my family. So more than 90% of the time, I'm still living as a male. Of course, I would like this all to be over right away. I wish there was just like a pill you could take, but it takes time. But I hope within the next year, by the time I'm 30, I'll be able to be full-time. I think one of the some of the terms that are used very casually are gender and sex, and um, I think for me anyway, there was a difference between sex and gender. I see sex as the composition of your body, which everyone's different. You know, of course, we have our own DNA and all that stuff. Gender is more in terms of your behavior and personality. So, and for transgendered people, there can be, disagreement between the way their body looks and how they feel it should look. So there's that sex part of it, but then there's the gender part of it, where the way they're supposed to behave, and the way they feel like they want to be. So when you use a term like transgender, it's kind of like a blanket term for anyone who doesn't fall into those gender roles nicely. When I think of transsexual, I usually think of somebody who's going through more of the physical aspects of it as well, in terms of, trying to fit into such as getting hair removal, taking hormones, those type of things. So I would consider, for instance, I know some people who are gender queer. Those are people who don't see themselves as the opposite sex, but still behave, let's say they're biologically male, they still behave more femininely, they wear makeup, sometimes they're cross-dressers, or just this is something they do all the time. So that would be an example of somebody who is gender-wise different, but doesn't see themselves as like being in the wrong body, so to speak. So there's a whole range, and as far as the terminology goes, it can get very complicated, but I guess the overall rule is just when you see somebody, either ask them if you're not sure, or just if they're presenting in a certain way. I think it's fine to say, if they're presenting as female, say she. If they try to correct you on it, say that I'm a male, that's the way I want to be identified. There's a tendency, once somebody learns that somebody's a transsexual, to continue referring to them as their previous gender. Like, I see a lot of comments online, like, somebody will say, you're a beautiful woman, and then somebody say, no, it's a guy. And it's is not good, so they would be okay. It's is like it's a cup or something, is not a person, So, but, if somebody corrects you, just do your best to try to respect, the way they wish to be called. I think for me, I was never happy with my voice, so I would have problems communicating with people. Projection is something I definitely want to work on. I feel like I can get a reasonable pitch and things like that, but a lot of that has to do with breath support and just having more confidence in your voice. So a lot of times it's harder when you're using a different type of resonance to be able to project, because the voice is, it takes practice. So that's mainly what I've been working on, is increasing the loudness, the pitch, And the other things just tend to come along a little bit easier, such as having a softer sound, the melodious up and down pitch. Those tend to be things that I wanted to do anyways. I just felt with my old voice I couldn't really do that. But especially in crowded situations like this, that's where you really need to be able to project more, and that's what I'm trying to work on. I was always fearful about transitioning. It was something I didn't feel I could feasibly do until I saw a video about how to modify your voice, and then I realized, that it's not only something I could do, it was something I had to do for myself. So for me, voice was like one of the first steps for me. And obviously I haven't fully transitioned, not living full-time yet, but since things like voice takes practice and time, and like the hair removal takes time, so the earlier you can start on that, the easier it is when you switch to the full-time mode. You don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. It's already taken care of. So, and I think it's important because it's a big part of socialization, which is a big part of people's lives. If you're not comfortable with socializing with people, that's going to be a big problem for you. So I really feel like having the right voice that I'm comfortable with, my true voice, then it'll make socializing a lot easier, and it'll help me, of course, present as female, which will make me more comfortable in public and such, So it takes a lot of work, and it's very hard to find good information on the internet and other places, so I really appreciate that this class was available, that it was affordable, and it's been a good experience. I also wanted to add that for someone like me who uses my old voice 90 or more % of the time, that it's very hard to get used to using the voice. It takes a lot of focus, but I think the more you use it and the more you work at it, the old voice does tend to go away. And I know people who can't use their old voice even after like a year. It's different. They can't get back to where they used to be because your muscles change and stuff. So I don't think, until I start living full-time, it's always going to take a lot of concentration to be able to do it. But speaking in front of large groups like this certainly helps a little bit. I chose Alana because I'm kind of a pacifist, and it means peace in Latin. I chose Sophia as a last name, and that's because I really like philosophy, and Sophia means wisdom, which is part of Philosophia. So it does sound Latin, and it sounds nice. It doesn't necessarily relate to anyone in my family or my heritage, but then again, I'm kind of I'm very different from my heritage, so, I think I chose the name long before I decided to transition. It was a name I would give characters when I'd make them online as a female version of me, and I just figured I already settled on that name, I might as well, keep using it. I guess I have no plans of getting any surgery. That's not to say that, I couldn't imagine having something done in the future. But for the most part, just getting the hormones covered will be the big thing for me, and possibly even the therapy and stuff. It's not something that, for people who are transgendered who don't have a good paying job, or, there's not a lot of options for them as far as what they can do. So I'm kind of fortunate that I'm in the position I'm in right now, but, in other parts of the world, or just even people who are struggling financially,